Hey guys, and welcome back to another Was Awoke video. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so I'm excited to do another one again. And today's film in focus is Joker Folie. For those unfamiliar with these videos, what I basically do is I have 5 criteria to determine how woke a film was. And that is racial diversity, LGBTQ representation, toxic masculinity / feminist messaging, traditions bad, progressivism good, and anti-capitalism / pro-socialism. I give each of those 5 criteria a score out of 10. I total that score and I divide it by the 5 criteria, and that equals my score of how woke it was. 0 to 2.5 is not woke, 2.6 to 5 is a little woke, 5.1 to 7.5 is pretty woke, and 7.6 to 10 is very woke. And so today we're going to take Joker Folie and we're going to run it through my criteria to determine how woke was it. Number 1 is racial diversity. So as it states, this one is determining how diverse was the film, but rather in a forced manner. Was there forced diversity in this film? The answer is no. It's very natural to the United States, essentially, or to a big urban city that is naturally diverse these days. And so to me, it is very accurate in that regard. And so I have no problems with that one in this regard. So I'm going to give a 0 out of 10 for racial diversity. Number 2 is LGBTQ representation. So to my eyes, there was none in this film, at least nothing forced or anything like that, or anything I could see. But there was a minor moment, but it's not really anything when Arthur does kiss a male inmate, but it's more played as a joke rather than anything else. So I'm not going to give anything for this film regarding LGBTQ representation. So I'm just going to give a straight up 0 out of 10. Number 3 is toxic masculinity / feminist messaging. So talking about that first one, toxic masculinity, I think there's some really important things to talk about here. So as we know with the first film, it had a massive following that was gained because of people's love of the Joker. Despite him being a psychopath and a crazy person, a murderer, all of these things, as fans, people couldn't help but love him because there was a lot to sympathize about his journey despite where he ends up. And so the film obviously made over $1 billion, massive fan base, all of that, which obviously justified this film. But this film now seems to have a message in it that is counter to what they were trying to do with his character in the first. The first one was building up the Joker and making you love him as the Joker despite his flaws, despite how crazy he is. This one is basically trying to a slap in the face to the fans that loved that and basically said, no, it is not acceptable to like a character like that. You need to accept him as the more tame Arthur Fleck, who is just a mentally deranged person. He's not to be idolized. You're not to enjoy him. You're not to love him. And he even goes on that journey himself where he admits he is not the Joker. He knew what he was doing all along as the Arthur Fleck, and he was just using the Joker to justify it. But it's such a slap in the face to the fans, and you can't help but feel that it's because they think that there's a lot of toxic male fans that love that first film. They wanted to allude to the alt-right and all sorts of stupid things, but people just enjoyed a good character. They don't care who he is, what his persuasion is, what he's done. People love, can get behind anyone, no matter how bad and how vile he is. They can get behind it if he's written well, and that's what he was. And this year, they really did not like a big portion of the fans that loved that first version of the Joker, and so they seek to destroy that, and I think they very much did that with this film. And then you obviously have the Harley Quinn aspect of this film. She's been inserted here. She wasn't in the first one, but she's been inserted in this film as the female lead. Now, in isolation, there is no issue with that, but it's become such a recurring thing across all of media where you have a beloved male character, whether it's a protagonist, antagonist, whatever, they have to saddle him with a female. It's so prevalent now. We've seen it throughout the Marvel universe, seen it in Star Wars, we're seeing it across all mediums at the moment, and you can't help but feel that we wanted to see this film be more about him just being the Joker. He can discover Harley in this film, but they put too much emphasis on her this early on in his time as the Joker. Now I get they're not trying to do anything close to what the comics did with the Joker and his arc and how he becomes who he is, but this one, it just felt like we needed more time of just him alone, developing him as the Joker, gathering his following, but they didn't do that. Instead, they saddled him with her very early on, and it became all about their love story. And very much the film uses her to give him his agency. Basically, he does not want to really be the Joker anymore. He's accepting his miserable life, and she's there egging him on. She wants him to embrace it for the fun and all that stuff. And so she's there giving him his agency, and I didn't like that at all. He earned his own agency in the first film. He broke free of the shackles of society for better or worse, in the first film, and here he is basically relying on someone else to pull him along now, and I didn't like that at all. And so for these two main points, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 for toxic masculinity / feminist messaging. Number 4 is traditions bad, progressivism good. So this one relates to what we're talking about in the third point, but from a different angle. So again, we talked about the de-evolution and the deconstruction of the Joker's character. Well, if you think about a film, its story, its plot, its lore, that becomes its tradition. So the first film is what we know of the Joker in this universe, and the rules have been kind of presented about who his character is within this universe, and that is the tradition. Well, here they are seeking to tear that down by deconstructing his character. This whole universe revolves around his character, and they are deconstructing that. And so it's a slap in the face to the tradition of the first film and what we loved about it. So it's really taking this progressive angle by kind of saying it's toxic to get behind a character like that who is such a psychotic and a psychopath, all of that. And it's saying, no, we need to just appreciate him and get behind the more sad, downtrodden, mentally deranged version who's just kind of ineffective on society. Not the crazy one that people is generating a following behind. No, we need to appreciate him just as much because he is Arthur Fleck. And that's such a participation trophy like mentality. It's that really modern way of thinking where it's like, no, we need to celebrate everyone no matter who they are. It's like, no, we get behind people who are exceptional or who do exceptional things. Now, the Joker is not exceptional. He's an insane person, but he's entertaining. So the entertainment factor is what is exceptional about him. And they want to dismiss that completely with this film by deconstructing him and just neutering him completely. And so with those points, I'm going to give a 5 out of 10 for traditions bad, progressivism good. Number 5 is anti-capitalism / pro-socialism. So there's nothing really overt here in this regard, but what I will say is it has a negative view. This film has a negative view of society. And what I mean by that, it has that kind of that bigotry of low expectations. So the idea that you have a person who is charismatic and people get behind that because he's charismatic, and therefore society should not be exposed to that person. We should remove the charismatic person because society cannot be trusted to govern their own moral code or to espouse their own values. No, people become like a hive mind and they follow a person blindly. And that's what this film kind of does, and is why it finds it unacceptable to appreciate or get behind the Joker, which is why they revert him back to Arthur Fleck, because they don't want people getting behind that sort of character. And so it's a low view of society to have that kind of perspective that people can just be brainwashed like that. And maybe there's truth to it, but it shouldn't be governed in any sort of way. People should be free to do and think whatever they want and follow whoever they want, as long as they are not harming anyone else. So look, it's not directly tethered to capitalism, socialism, or anything like that, but it is a sort of a broad negative view of society. And so for that, I'm going to give a 1 out of 10 for anti-capitalism / pro-socialism. So the scores of those 5 criteria totals 12. We take that 12 and we divide it by the 5 criteria, and that equals 2.4, which is not woke. So there you go. Joker Folie à Deux is not woke, but it is very much knocking on the door of that next criteria, which would be a little woke if it got over the score of 2.5. But I think it is just, and I think it's deserved to be in that not woke category, because there's nothing overt here. It's very, very tiny little things peppered throughout that we have problems with, but it's not enough to kind of brand this film as sort of woke in any way. If people ask me about this film, I would say it's a bad film. I would say don't go see it. But if you're worried about the woke aspect of this film, it's not really overt in any way. So there you have it, guys. That's my thoughts on Joker Folie à Deux and its inherent wokeness. I consider it to be not woke, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Did you pick up on certain woke elements or identity politics that I didn't pick up on? I'd love to hear them all in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.